Welcome to my writer's room. I'm BT Higgins. Welcome to lesson 3.2. We're going to talk about something called bookends. Now, bookends, on a bookshelf, you got a whole bunch of books that are trying to stand up in a row. Bookends are simply kind of an item that you put on one side and on the other side to hold the books, keep them from falling over. But because that's kind of a common sort of thing to use on a shelf, or I guess it was when this this bookend phrase was invented, it's now an expression. It means putting a similar ending as the beginning had, and it kind of loops it and closes off a story, okay? It's a writing device. I sometimes use it for my short stories where I'll take a phrase or maybe a metaphor or an image or a situation that kind of came in at the beginning, and I'll repeat it towards the end, but it will feel different. At the end, after whatever's happened in the middle, the character changed or someone understood something more, repeating that idea suddenly has a different flavor to it. And by repeating it, I've kind of closed off a loop. It happened at the beginning. Lots of things happened in the middle that were the conflict, and then it was resolved, and then that same thing or that same phrase or that same image or a similar sort of scene happens at the end. Sometimes, like in movies, I notice, I just watched the movie Onward again by the Pixar film, and they use this with a paragraph that was kind of the introduction when read at the very beginning. They use that same thing at the middle in pieces, and then at the very end, when it was repeated, it was said with a different sort of voice and inflection, and because of everything our characters had been through, it sort of had a satisfying sense of, look, this is our ending, and it makes sense now, and it closes it off. Oh, doesn't that feel like a perfect way to end it, even though it was also a good way to beginning. So that's bookending. It gives the audience the sense that the journey has completed. And now they have some new perspective. The characters have a new perspective on their lives. The watcher, in the case of this movie, or reader in the case of books, has a new perspective on this character and this world, and it feels like a happy ending. Or it could also be sad, also if it's more of a sad story, or neutral, but it kind of contrasts the beginning from the end by using that same sort of bookend writing device. Okay, I see this in tons of movies. Sometimes it works in books really well, but because books, there's so much more writing and scenes. I think sometimes it could be done but not noticed, because you're not going to necessarily notice just a single phrase unless it was really important. But so then in a book, maybe it's more like a scene. Well, the story begins in a certain cafe, and it ends in that same cafe. And the character is, drinking coffee, doing something in the beginning, and then they go back and do the same thing at the end, except it feels different now that they've gone through their adventure. Okay, and so that's how that device might work in a book, which is a little bit longer. Okay, when that character reacts differently, we see that they have changed. So if the beginning bookend is a conflict, say main character is confronted by bullies and is terrified, tries to get away, gets beat up. Then the adventures of the book happen, and that strengthens the character. And then when those same bullies or a different set of bullies comes and tries to confront them, they're able to react differently. They stand up for themselves. They scare off the bullies because suddenly they've got confidence, or the character has confidence. And so you see how that's the same situation, but they reacted different. And so it feels like, oh, wow, I could see how much they've changed, and it feels good. Okay? So Bookends, using a similar scene, a similar line, maybe a similar image that means a different thing at the beginning than it does at the end, gives a satisfying feel. And so that's something you can try and use with your stories, but don't overdo it. It needs to feel fresh and natural. This gets used a lot. So if you're going to use it, you want to try and, make it not too obvious. All right? Have fun writing.